Dane by local. All right. Okay. And Megan said that she tries to put herself in advocacy or represent a role for the businesses that she supports, since many cannot make the meetings. That's awesome. And we have Kiki McShane from Far Vision Consulting in Rutland, Vermont, interested in the information and lending for small businesses. Awesome, awesome. All right. We have Tamika Ramsey from T. Ramsey and Associates in Detroit Action, representing Pontiac. Let's see. And wants to learn more about small businesses. That's awesome. All right. I love all of these responses. Everyone seems so excited and pumped to learn more. That's super great. Thank you all again so much for coming out. So we're coming up on being about 5 minutes out. So what I'm going to do as people start to come in, before we kick it off to our policy manager, Naomi, who is going to be spearheading this session. First, we're going to introduce you to our fearless leader, Main Street Alliance's executive director, who's going to just share a few words with us before we get started today. All right.
Awesome. Are you ready to pass the mic over to me, Roshana?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Welcome, everybody. Good to have you in the chat, Kiki. Haven't seen you since last summer in Vermont, and delighted to meet so many other faces today. We thought about it last fall, Naomi Watoga and I, what would be a good way to kick off January? And certainly inflation's on the hearts and minds of everyone. So I'm so thrilled to have our partners at Biz2Credit to ground us in this conversation. I know Michael and the team have put together a lot of thought. But before we get there, we've had a little bit of I think there's, if you're not speaking, if you're not Shonda, would you mind putting yourself on mute? Can't wait to hear from you in just a little bit, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of a framework in the journey we're going on. So before we hear from the Biz2Credit team, we want to give you a little bit of an update from MSA. We put together a survey and got some wonderful responses. So it's good to hear how you all are thinking about our core issue areas. And so with that, I will pass it on over to Naomi to kick us off.
All right. All right, it's so nice to see all of you here today. I'm just going to briefly go over our agenda for today's session. We're so excited to have Michael Tryon from Biz2Credit here to talk about their report that they just released. But before that, we're going to give a high-level overview of what's happening in Congress, in the 118th Congress. We're going to go over our 2022 post-midterm election surveys. Watoga and I sent this survey out to our members after the midterm elections last year. And so between November and December, we were going through all of some of your responses and answers to really help us cater MSA to best serve our membership, and also what are some policy issues that you guys are interested in. Then we're going to have our presentation from Biz2Credit. Please feel free to throw your questions in the chat during Michael's presentation. I'll be monitoring them and we can have an engaging participation in and afterwards we'll have a Q&A session where you can feel free to shoot your questions to MSA or Biz2Credit in ways that we can help you all in your small businesses. And then we're going to conclude sharing a little bit more about our leadership development series here at MSA and present some opportunities for you all to, one, participate in person and virtually throughout 2023. So what's happening on the federal landscape? Just a few days ago, the White House shared that over the last 2 years, there's been a record number of 10 million small businesses created in our country. And so what we at Main Street Alliance, we see that as an opportunity for more programs and more investments to go towards small businesses, and especially true small businesses like those here at MSA, particularly those with 20 or less employees. On the congressional landscape, these are the top priorities between the House and Senate that we'll be seeing over the next 2 years. We'll be looking for reform and the modernization of the Small Business Administration, which would be really helpful for small businesses to have more direct and clear contact with the administration around issues important to small businesses. They'll be enhancing private sector lending, empowering entrepreneurs, and that's really important to us here at Main Street Alliance, because one of our goals going into 2023 is to also empower disenfranchised entrepreneurs. So whether that's BIPOC entrepreneurs, women, those that are formerly incarcerated, MSA is really looking to create an inclusive space where we can build power with entrepreneurs of all identities. There's going to be opportunities and more opportunities for small businesses to contract with the federal government. And also an emphasis on transparency and oversight with the Small Business Committee and actual small businesses around the country. Now we're going to transition into our 2022 post-midterm election survey results. I'm going to kick it off to Watoga to start and kind of talk about what these questions mean and how it will impact MSA and our members. All right, Watoga.
All right. Thank you, Naomi, for handing it over. And thank you for all of our guests for joining. Hope it's not too late to say Happy New Year. As we enter 2023, the policy team has come together to look at the survey results to see who we're representing as we go into our coalition meetings and meetings with locally elected officials. So we see that from our survey, most of our small business membership does represent the true small business model that we are seeking to represent, which are sole proprietors and those under 10 employees. So we see more than 80% of our respondents were either working by themselves or under 10 employees. And then we see the other figures to the left of the chart. If we can go to the next one. We also asked how our members took part in the elections, whether it be voting on election day in person, early voting in person, or early voting by mail. And we know that across the country that voting rights some states offer more options to vote than others. So we want to see where our members are, how they were taking part in these midterm elections, just so we know how, and to know like what issues guys are that concern you as small business owners on your day-to-day. So we see that a lot of early voting by mail, which was very, it seems to be very useful. Yeah, can we go back? Sorry. So the option for early voting by mail seems to be very useful for our membership, along with in person on election day. So it's important to give our members or to advocate for our members to have different avenues to take part in the election processes. And moving to our next slide. Around our core issue areas, we wanted to see around this election cycle, what means most to you and why did you go out to vote? There were a lot of issues on your plate, so we allowed you to give different, as many answers as you like. The biggest concern right now across our membership is healthcare, and we see a lot of different moving parts, like national level and in our states that we have our membership. I know Minnesota and Wisconsin have a lot of healthcare bills on the table this year, and we see a lot of care economy issues and capital access. So this data actually does help us prioritize our work and like our getting up to speed sessions for 2023, and bringing in crucial speakers around these issues to inform our members and to gauge your level of interest. And I'll pass it back over to Naomi to continue with our results.
All right, thanks, Watoga. We wanted to see what were some of the activations and engagement that members were most interested in participating in, or that they did participate in during the midterm election. While we did see a number of folks did not decide to participate, we saw that a lot of people hosted and attended a roundtable discussion or signed the pledge to vote card. So this is really helpful as we go into the next election cycle to know what type of activities our members going to participate in. I think that in 2023, we'll be doing a lot more communications with members so that they're aware of all of the activations that we're doing to participate and to get involved in your local and national elections. We noticed that we want to see more members give employees time off to vote. That's something important, as we want people to participate in their local elections. Something else that we were looking at were what were some other core issue areas that members were voting around. We saw inflation as what we're talking about today, supply chain shortages, labor shortages, and COVID relief as some of the top issues impacting members. What's not listed on here was women's reproductive rights as another core issue that members were voting on in the 2022 midterm election. And lastly, we were interested in learning what type of activities and engagement opportunities were members interested in participating in 2023. So as you all know, in March, we'll be hosting our leadership training, organizing training, where we are inviting members to come to Washington, D.C. to learn how to become organizers in their community. We're really excited for that. The dates are going to be March 14th through March 16th. And then the following month, we'll be hosting our April advocacy training for Small Business Month. So we're hoping that all of the information that you learn in March, you can bring to our advocacy training in April. And after that, we're going to take those 2 months of trainings and workshops and bring them back to Capitol Hill in May for our May Small Business Month, which we're super excited about. And if those opportunities don't get you enough excited, we're going to have our July elected leadership training, where if you're interested in running for local office, we can have that those workshops and training opportunities available to you. So I just want to thank you for staying on and kind of going through what were some of our top results from the 2022 midterm election survey. And now I'm super excited to pass it over to Michael Tryon, Director of Strategic Partnerships with Biz2Credit, to talk about how inflation is impacting small businesses around the country.
Hi, thank you. Appreciate that. And that was some great data that you shared with the group here. So looks like you have your finger on the pulse as well. But I'm Michael, so I'm from Biz2Credit, and I've had the opportunity to come in here and talk to the group about some of the experiences that we're seeing in the small business marketplace at this point. My background has primarily been with large financial institutions. I've held roles as a product manager, but it's always been focused on small business. It's certainly a segment that's more difficult to understand. It's kind of has its own nuances. It doesn't necessarily flow with the consumer markets, but it's definitely a strategic priority for a lot of businesses. And on a personal note, I can tell you that my wife is a small business owner, so we live every day understanding the impacts, the decisions that the government has and the economy on the bottom line of a small business owner. So happy to kind of share some of the things we're seeing with you today. And there's some polling questions in here to keep it a little light for you, get some feedback, and feel free to ask questions as we go along the way here. So just to give you a little background on the next slide here is a little bit.
Michael,
Yeah.
my apologies for interrupting. We just need to do a quick switch for technical. So if you can give us about a minute, and we'll have Mike back over to you. Thank you.
I was hoping you said you heard me, so if I didn't have to repeat that whole thing again, that would have been tough.
That would have been terrible. Quite clearly. So thank you. I think we're all, and you can just pick it up from here. Thank you very much.
Gotcha. So
1 second, let me just get in slideshow mode. Okay.
I'll keep going, and this slide's not that important. I'll just kind of talk through the points there. But Biz2Credit is a company that's been around since 2010. It's an owner-led company, Series B funded. And, the two owners are Rohit and Ramit Arora. They're in the office every day, providing insights and directing the business. So, it's a very hands-on operation. We've actually grown to close to 500 employees at this point, with a location in India that helps provide our tech and data support. We funded to date close to, or I think at this point, close to $8 billion. A lot of that actually came out of PPP, where we were able to stand up a platform and a process to help facilitate funding for the SBA directly, to get hands into the money of small businesses. So, during that time, it was very chaotic. There was a lot going on. Nobody knew where to go for answers. And like I said, we were able to create a process that allowed, accountants, CPAs, firms, financial institutions to come get answers, resources, and ultimately funding for PPP. So it really, at a crazy time, helped us to grow our business. So you never know where opportunities might lie. And, along the way, we've been able to pick up some accolades and win some awards. And, we can even add to that one. Just recently, we were best places to work. So overall, the company continues to grow. You have to be adaptive. You have to be able to improvise and find the right opportunities and really take advantage of them when they come along. So, I'll share some of that with you today. On the next slide, just a high level overview of the product selection that we offer at Biz2Credit. So we are a small business funding company. We like to say we utilize technology to make our lending decisions. So the turnaround times are going to be very fast. The interaction is usually digital. We do have, 100 sales agents that are on staff to be able to answer phone calls and actually talk to the customer if you have questions. So, you're not just a number, you're not just getting lost in the process. But the products themselves really offer a full suite for the credit spectrum and for the lending needs to be able to allow for, working capitals more like your credit card receivables or future receivables based on invoices. So, being able to provide what a cash flow scenario looks like is really the most important asset that our company is looking for while providing financing. So from there, the credit grows up to a term loan, a more fixed rate product that's payable back up to 60 months. And then we offer some other products to help establish a business as well. I think next we're going to come up to one of our polling questions here. So 1 year from now, in January of 2024, do you think the U.S. economy will be better off, worse off, or the same? Oh, there's the voting screen. There we go. So in the role that our CEO has within our company, he actually is afforded great opportunities to speak on CNBC, CNN. We recently had a senator come on from the SBA panel. And we interact a lot with government officials to get a sense of, where policy's at, what trends the government's seeing, and how they're going to help use their tools and resources to continue to fight for the small business owner. So I'll share some of that with you today. And I think while we're waiting on those answers, we can go on to the next slide there. I don't think at any point you can really drive down the road without worse off seems to be the predominant answer there. So maybe not as optimistic as some of the small business owners that we talk to, but we'll have two more opportunities for you throughout the call here to chime in. But, today the Fed continues to decelerate inflation with monetary tightening of policies, which is obviously the rate increase. They hit historic levels to continue to fight off the inflation. Certain leaders like Jamie Dimon, tend to see things maybe glass half empty right now, that, there is a recession on the horizon here, and that the Fed maybe has reacted too late, too little and too late to be able to help this. But, the early indicator is that the rate hike is going to continue through the spring of 2023. And, as a small business owner, I think what comes into play here is you should be asking yourself, what does this mean to me? So, you're going to continue to probably see a softening job market. You're going to see credit card balances go up as people have to find alternative ways to continue to finance their business, to pay for inventory. In fact, the credit card balances have gone up 15% in the last quarter alone, which is the highest jump in the last 20 years. Outside of that, the free government money is running out at this point, and people no longer have the savings that they used to. So, being able to find alternative ways to get funding is going to become more and more tricky. The consumer spending, on the other hand, is kind of contradictory to what we're seeing in all of the other aspects of small business, where it's still outpacing growth. So consumers are still out shopping, still out purchasing services, still going to restaurants. But somebody forgot to tell them that there's a deficit, or that there's a recession on the horizon here, and that they might need to save that money for a rainy day. I think what's important in a lot of the partners that we have at Biz2Credit are CPA firms, accounting firms, bookkeepers, and the feedback that we get from them when talking to their small business owners is a lot like, what conversations are they having? What should they be talking about? What are they looking for today? And the big questions that come up is cash flows. I mentioned before, cash flow is always the lifeblood or king of any small business. And without it, you can't really continue to make your payroll. You can't make inventory purchases, and hiring always becomes a challenge. So being able to really have insight as to your cash flow for the year going out, and being able to understand where there might be softness in that cash flow, to be able to predict when you need to borrow some money is something that a conversation that if you're not having with your CPA or with your accountant, you should be asking those questions so that you can best prepare for the future at this point.
Hey, Michael, I think we have a question in the chat for you. And we just want to know, how would this differ with different states? And is there a role that state governments can help with small businesses and inflation?
That's a great question. I mean, your direct representatives are going to be your first line of defense, and they need to understand the backbone of the economy. I want to say, I think you might have had a stat in here, but I thought small business was over 95% of the population of the United States that make up the business out there. So, that first line of defense and being able to go and find out what resources are available from your state are going to be key. I mean, there's the big federal ones out there that everybody's aware of, but in a time when the SBA is really diversifying and they're trying to figure out ways to keep small businesses employed, you need to be out there having those conversations and looking for alternative resources.
That sounds like a perfect place for an organization like MSA to help.
Exactly. All right. So what we're bringing to the table today to really help kind of hit it home is a new survey that has come out for Biz2Credit. So the inflation, it directly looks at the impact of the inflation on the economy. So, we work with hundreds of thousands of businesses, and as a technology company, we're constantly interacting and collecting data from these businesses. So, as we upload bank statements, as we get more tax returns from businesses, we get a lot of data that we're able to compile, and we have some pretty smart people working at our company. But what this is going to show you here is pre-COVID, the economy was chugging along just fine. Growth was good. Everybody was happy. There was about a 5% growth. Expenses were lower. And then as COVID started to click in, and I remember that in Q3 of 2019, kind of remember exactly where I was at that time. The world changed. Everything kind of went upside down. Nobody was allowed to go out. Businesses all stopped. And you can see the inverse relationship that occurred at that point to both expenses and revenue on a small business. Obviously, throughout the next year, it continued to double the exposure and get worse. And you can see specifically that the expenses outpaced the revenue at that point. So many small businesses were upside down, again, self-supporting, their business to keep it afloat, trying to keep their employees on payroll at that point, not able to get inventory to continue to stock their shelves. And, if any of you were in business in 2008, I think you really kind of hit an inflection point owning a business, because you had to figure out how to survive. What you were doing before wasn't working, you weren't able to open your door in the morning and have customers coming in. You had to figure out a new way to do business. So, here comes the next quarter again. So we're Q1 22 or 21. And we're starting to come out of the COVID darkness there, and the expenses are still high as people are trying to staff up at this point, get their businesses up and running again. And, we start to get back to a new state of normal. I would say it was a little like overcompensation, probably. So many people wanted to get out at that point. And you can see that the revenues clicked up, and businesses that did very well during that time. So I think the key takeaways is that, the recovery starts to take a hold and spending resumes. But then again, in the C2 grid there, the high cost of goods, wages, and fuels have again eaten into the profits for a business, and the revenues, continue to suffer. So it's an elongated process at this point, and one that, the government tries to continue to find ways to help support, but being able to forecast and really look into your business needs is going to be key to helping your business succeed over the next year again. So let's see if there's any questions that came up during that slide there.
Actually, we have a question for those small businesses that if you want to kind of throw in the chat. I think this will kind of help support the research from Biz2Credit. And how has inflation impacted your business? While we see the data, we'd love to hear the stories that correlate with what's happening right now.
Yeah, that'd be great feedback.
Yeah, if you'd like to continue, Michael, we're all ears.
Okay. Well, if I move on to the next slide, what we've done at Biz2Credit is used the technology and the ability to communicate through our platform, typically with our CPAs, but it's available in the marketplace. So, today, in today's environment, and I worked at a bank, it's tough. You walk into a bank, you're not familiar with the processes, you don't know exactly what it is you're asking for. It's kind of ambiguous as far as what to expect, who gets good rates, how do you get better rates, how much does it cost for the cost of borrowing, and the process itself requires the consumer who is already struggling to run their business and doesn't have any time now has to become a person that is financially savvy and is able to understand the process, is able to devote the time to going in and getting a loan. It can be overwhelming. And, really effectively what it does is it takes a lot of people out of the ability to get financing when they need it. It doesn't come at a fast pace because usually there's a lot of documents that need to be gathered. There's a lot of updates and steps or conditions, we call them, in the business. But at the end of the day, you don't have a lot of visibility into your credit, what it takes to get good credit, and being able to provide or establish a relationship with that financial institution to really help get you going and continue to be there for you in times when you need them the most. So that's one of the things that we've really taken from the way that business works today and changed it around so that you have access to representatives that will be able to not offer you a product, but help understand your financial situation and place you or give you options to really help put you in the best position to succeed.
We have another question.
All right.
And when it comes to access, have you seen any disparities between race or gender, and how is Biz2Credit helping underserved entrepreneurs get this access to capital that people and entrepreneurs so desperately need?
That is a fantastic question. I know I saw it in here later on, but so I'll give you an example from Payment Protection Program. So one of the reasons that the program ultimately was successful for us, but what it allowed a lot of small business owners that weren't in the mainstream of financing and have those existing bank relationships, it provided a platform for people to be able to get access to funding. And one of the reasons that it was really successful for us is because Biz2Credit has developed their own proprietary underwriting score. We call it Biz Analyzer. But what it does is it takes into account other factors and aggregates outside of the credit bureaus. So, even if your credit score may suffer or you don't have strong established credit, we're able to use other factors to help provide underwriting characteristics and get you loans. So, it's other things that you have to look at, and that ultimately ended up serving a lot of the underserved community, and we were recognized for being able to provide it looks like over 27,000 loans for underserved businesses through that platform. So, it's different than a bank, and the way we look at things is different. We're going to ask for bank statements, but that tells a lot about a business, and it helps to provide alternatives to traditional financing in a bank. So I think
that's super helpful. And I
Yeah,
know later in the presentation, you talk about kind of the MSA and Biz2Credit partnership that we're excited to have.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, it's being able to, kind of get behind the door, have that conversation, and understand what goes into making a loan. So, we're there to help educate as well as provide options. And the best part is it's not going to take you a month. The requirements aren't going to be as rigorous as a bank, and usually can be provided from a digital experience, like uploading bank statements or using a link to link to your bank statement. So we try to take the onus out of it. And like I said, we all know you're, have enough things going on with running your business. So we want you to stay with what you're doing there. Cool. All right. Looks like there was one more polling question there. What is the most significant obstacle you've experienced that is keeping your small business from reaching your goals? No shortage of responses or options there, I would imagine. And I'll just go through while we're waiting to get some results from that. But what I was kind of referencing before, what the question was around being able to provide financing for underserved businesses, is some of the challenges we saw are, small businesses don't get the financing they need. So being able to use our platform, 24-hour service, 56% of online small businesses loan applications are going to occur outside of banking hours also. So accessibility, traditional application process is complex, and we have a 93% rate of self-service for our customers to come to our platform. So they're able to guide themselves through the application and provide the necessary documents required to be able to get an underwriting decision. And then just last couple of points that I would add on there. It looks like we're about coming up on time here, but underwriting of a small business. So I'm on slide 11 here. Let's see, rising cost and inflation. Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree from what we're hearing that the cost of labor, the cost of goods, being able to find labor is all adding to the bottom line and taking away from the revenue at this point. And poor cash flow, financial challenges is always a struggle for small businesses. So, do you buy a bunch of equipment now, or do you buy your inventory now, or do you make smaller purchases and only buy it as you need it? So those are the struggles that small businesses have every day when they open their doors, to figure out the best way that they're going to be able to service their customers and keep some money in the bank to save for a rainy day. So very challenging environment there. So I'm on slide 11, it looks like.
Next one.
Is there a question?
Is it the next slide, this one, or?
Yeah, there you go. So just some more kind of points to look at as far as what the solutions and options from the Biz2Credit offer here. But, just being able, we're a small business also is how we still look at it. That last bullet point down there, kind of reinforces to me, the same way that we look at our business is the same way that, you have to as a small business is you have to take advantage of the opportunities when you see them. How do you continue to grow and scale from those opportunities? And that's something where, like, I know you're very popular today. I hear it on Pandora. I see it on the TV. But the government has one more program out there for the employee retention credit. So, as you continue to look at where your funding's coming from, again, you should talk to your accountant or financial person about, are you eligible for that credit, and see if that's something that you can get some money back from taxes you paid into payroll there. So the last page just kind of show you an illustration of what the partnership looks like today and the application process. But, we're a digital first company, and, we're here to work on your time and help provide you answers. So, they have a link for our website if you want more information, or certainly when you're done this call, you can feel free to reach out to me directly. So I think that was really all I had for today. And if there was any remaining questions or answers, I'm still available.
All right, members, now is your time. We have literally an expert right here. If you have any questions just regarding inflation, what you've been hearing about our membership program, please feel free to come off of mute and ask Michael.
Yeah, if you want to use the raise your hand function, we can call on you. Otherwise, you could type in the chat as well. But feel free to ask while we have Mike here.
And certainly I can follow up afterwards. I'm kind of reading through them right now as well. So I'll make sure to get back to everybody in a response.
Okay. Hold on, let's go back one more. If there are no questions, I'd love to be able to share the best point of contact for you, Michael, with our team. So maybe we can just field them to me and I can share them over there. That way we can really get some of you all signed up for this partnership. I think it's a really great opportunity to increase access to capital for so many small business owners around the country.
That's great. And I appreciate your time today and being able to talk a little bit about what's going on out there.
Thank you so much. We appreciate having you.
Thank you.
So now we're going to start wrapping up our presentation, and I'm going to kick it back to Shonda to go through another a walkthrough of our MSA leadership development opportunities throughout 2023. Thank you, Shonda.
Oh, no problem. I mean, I think you did a great job on the outset, but just to reiterate, this is a year of investing in our membership. In the past, we've often acted as an advocate or acting on behalf of, but as you all know, our democracy is in shambles. And so we have an opportunity to really amplify or rebuild in our local economy. And this is through building on shared language of organizing. So we'll kick off in March with our organizing training. And we're hoping to have 20 of our top leaders down in DC, the DC suburbs, which will be in Northern Virginia and Alexandria. And we'll go through 2.5-day training with some experts from a number of organizations that you have heard from the past, like Working Families Party, MSA, and some of the Industrial Areas Foundation training. So we'll learn about power, self-interest, consent, and how to be in relationships with not only the people in our industry, but across the aisles in our local community. We're going to keep on that train and thinking about where do we take our power? We take our power to elected leaders. That's one form of it. And our local, state, and then federal here in DC. After that, if we haven't agitated you guys enough, I want you guys to think about running for public office, because we need power in all sectors of our society. And that's what we're doing this year at MSA, in addition to the things that we're building in our local economy. I hope that you're excited about this. So you can chat, show me with your thumbs up, put some hearts and emojis in the chat box, but let's rebuild and let's build our democracy at the local and state level. I'll pass it back over to you, Naomi.
All right. So once again, I just want to remind all of you all, we thank you for your time. I know it's a Monday in the morning or in the afternoon, but we encourage you to take action with Main Street Alliance. Share your story. We have 3 organizers that are interested in learning from you and working with you to build power. We have our next Getting Up to Speed on February 27th on capital access, and particularly capital access for Black businesses. We're going to have a really cool fireside chat with 2 academic experts in this space. I encourage you to sign up for our monthly newsletter. And again, if you're not a member, please use the link in the chat to sign up and become an MSA member to access the benefits from organizations like Biz2Credit and others that we work with throughout the year. We're here to help build small business power, and we want to work with you. So again, we thank you for joining our Welcome to 2023 Get Up to Speed session, and I look forward to building power with you this year. Thank you. And if you have time, don't forget to follow us on our social media. Each handle is listed below.